Manuel, there is too much butter on those trays.
No, senor.
What?
Not on those trays. No, sir. Uno, dos, tres.
Broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia, this is the FOMO Show.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the podcast where you'll hear about blockchain, cryptocurrency, emerging markets, and future tech in relatively plain English.
We'll help you stay across what's going on so you don't get the fear of missing out.
You can find us at FOMO.show or by searching for the FOMO Show on your platform of choice. So this episode, we're going to be talking about the things we liked from Google I.O.
We'll go through a couple of news headlines.
We'll also do an update on smart contracts, where they're at, where they're going, and some of our picks for where we think the industry is going to go as a whole.
We're going to be talking about CoinStorageGuru, which is an interesting way of keeping your private keys secure.
And we'll also check in with Jordan Cronje and Dan the ICO Man.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, why not send us a voice recording? Record it in Telegram and ping it to us. FOMO.show/Telegram.
Joe, is this investment advice?
Definitely not investment or any other advice for that matter. We're not saying you should buy any kind of cryptocurrency at all. We're both personally invested in a bunch of different cryptocurrencies, some of which we talk about on the show, but if we talk about it, it doesn't mean you should buy it.
Yeah, so do your research, never invest more than you can afford to lose, and most importantly, avoid the fear of missing out.
What have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
I hosted a workshop earlier this week for some people in business. And it was basically a masterclass on blockchain and smart contracts and from a business context. So,
how did it go? What was the reception?
It was really good. And some really interesting things came out of it. So I think there's more people looking to participate in this industry than I thought there was.
Wow.
Because everyone there essentially said, our clients are either looking at blockchain or other businesses in the space are either looking at blockchain. And they were all really keen to learn. And we essentially stepped through blockchain from the beginnings, and then we touched on Ethereum and why smart contracts, the concept of a smart contract changed the way we looked at blockchain as a whole. We then did some practical examples of some real smart contracts, and then went through tokens, projects, platforms. We touched on some of the competitors to Ethereum, which are coming through now, and then essentially did a session on how you can prepare your business going forward. So It all went really well. It was a full day. I've got another one in Melbourne next week, which should go well too. Yeah, just really good. There was a lot of interaction. A lot of people are genuinely trying to understand this and what it means for their business. And I think we're really going to see business beginning to take this and run with it at all levels, not just at the top level. So, yeah, really, really interesting to see. We also went to a Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash event. What was your impression of that, mate?
Well, it was a bit of pulling out my hair. Very entertaining. It was basically 6 nerds arguing about which of these two cryptocurrencies is better than the other. It was just kind of a pointless debate in my mind. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, look, I think both sides came from very interesting and different perspectives. There was some very spirited debate on both sides, but the whole topic of the night was Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash, a zero-sum game, which essentially kind of painted it in the light that, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are the only real two currencies that we need to care about, which was completely inaccurate. And so I think for what it was good, but the big takeaway for me was that we need to keep looking further outside just Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. I think there's some good innovation coming from Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. They're both doing things, but a lot of what they're doing is already being done better in other ways, in my view. And I think my big issue with the whole thing and the whole perspective that it has to be one of the two Bitcoins is that it feels like there's a lot of people who invested in Bitcoin early and now their Bitcoin's worth a lot, and they're the ones really pushing this whole it needs to be a Bitcoin debate because there's other currencies out there that do great stuff. Dash, Nem, PivX is one of our favorites, and they don't really get mentioned in these types of debates. And I think a part of that's by design because a lot of the old, kind of like the old boys club. I get I guess they all invested early, and they want to make sure that Bitcoin's the dominant one, so they get their money at the end. Yeah, but it was a good night. There's a video up floating around somewhere, I think, from the night. It's worth checking out. There were some conspiracy theories that came out.
Fascinating stuff.
Some really interesting perspectives on what happened between Bitcoin Core and like Roger Ver and the Bitcoin Cash guys. But we did see a couple of podcast listeners, which was really nice.
Yeah. So we saw Richie Rich BTC. We saw Luke, one of our good friends, and Casey, who hosts the Crypto Talk podcast, which you can find at cryptotalk.podbean.com. So it's great to see you guys there. Thanks for coming.
Cool. If you're new around here and new to crypto, you can check out our Blockchain Basics series. It starts from episode 2 and continues until around episode 8. And it'll give you a grounding in the fundamentals and help you understand what on earth we're talking about.
And wherever you're joining us from, absolute pleasure having you here. Why not drop into our Telegram channel? Come and say hello. It's FOMO.show/Telegram.
Yeah, and we've got a fair amount of people in there now. There's some real good discussion going on.
Yeah.
We try and put little nuggets in there every now and then, and people seem to be bringing up some really interesting topics. So if you're in the mood for some good discussion, then check the Telegram out.
Excellent. So a bunch of news going on this week. So many things. We're just going to run through a bunch of them. Consensus conference was on in the last couple of weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was on the whole of this week, just gone. Maybe that's...
Is that the Ethereum conference?
I think it's run by a group of people. I think CoinDesk are involved.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's just Ethereum.
Right.
I think it's a lot of different parties that are involved.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like the big conference for blockchain and cryptocurrencies, apparently.
Well, there was plenty of news that came. Well, not a lot of news that came out of the events, but there was a lot of press attention. There was a lot of PR around it. I mean, we were seeing photos of rented Lamborghinis parked out the front, and when there's some rented protesters that were was it Bankers Against Bitcoin?
Yeah. There was this whole like meta protest going on. Some mining company had purchased. Had like hired a whole bunch of actors to walk through the street and pretend to be bankers who were like against Bitcoin and trying to save their centralized jobs. And like, it was funny. I saw some pretty interesting debate around it and some people's opinions. They felt that maybe it wasn't what people should be doing, but I don't know. I thought it was a bit of fun. I got a laugh out of it. I'd like to think that that's all. They were just trying to be ironic. And but yeah, you're right, mate. I feel like there was a lot of press around the Consensus Conference, and a lot of people kind of went there and wanted to spruik their own, blockchain product. But I didn't see a lot of substantive news coming out of the conference, which kind of surprised me, because you look at like E3 or what's the big tech one that CES? Is it CES? Yeah. They'll normally, like, companies will save up all their biggest news for those conferences, and then they'll push it out. I think Bitcoin Cash had some kind of update going on during the conference. But yeah, I was quite surprised that there was a lot of hype, but didn't seem to be a lot of substance. So yeah. So what's been going on Wall Street?
There are a bunch of stories that are related to this. Headline being, I guess, for all these stories is Wall Street is warming to virtual currency trading. So the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange has been working on an online trading platform that would allow large investors to buy and hold Bitcoin, according to emails and documents viewed by the New York Times. And yeah, so that's quite kind of interesting. There are a bunch of other sort of related pieces after this. So Goldman Sachs, who we mentioned last episode, we're going to launch a trading desk in the coming weeks. They've now introduced their own version of Tether, a 1-to-1 USD stablecoin called, I can't remember what it's called. Circle? No. Circle USD coin.
Yeah.
A digital version of the dollar that you'll be able to purchase by trading in, real money.
Yeah.
According to Futurism.
And this was interesting because they kind of took a bit of a swipe at Tether and said, "Oh, this will actually be it will be a currency that's got real money behind it, as opposed to Tether, which famously hasn't been audited yet. You can make of that whatever you want, but they seem to be trying to offer another option that may have a little bit more reality behind it. It's funny to see all these institutions that crypto was ostensibly set up to displace now really jumping into the game."
Next piece, HSBC and ING Bank have both worked with the food giant Gargill to make a soybean transaction via the blockchain. And essentially they use the blockchain to exchange a letter of credit within the Quarter platform. So that was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Next up, you've got Germany's second largest stock exchange is launching a zero-fee cryptocurrency trading app.
Wow.
So that's great for German and European listeners.
So is that's kind of meant to compete with Robinhood then? Is that what they're going for?
Potentially, Robinhood are a very long way off coming past the US and Australia.
Right.
So there's a lot of regulatory battles to get through.
Yeah,
so they're the I think it's the Bourse or something, the stock exchange. So yeah.
Oh look, zero fees is always good.
Can't
It's
go
what
wrong,
you
can
want.
you?
And yeah, second largest stock exchange. So they've obviously seen the writing on the wall and they want to get into the action too. FedEx is also eyeing up the blockchain, mate.
Yeah, so I think that could have been at the Consensus Conference. They basically, the CEO of FedEx said, look, it's the next frontier that's going to completely change worldwide supply chains. So they're going to be they're actually using it to track large, higher value cargo.
Wow.
Really exciting stuff. And it's what we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah.
It's nice to see it's starting to happen.
Yeah, I think supply chain is probably the biggest use case. It's right for this blockchain stuff. And I use it even in the workshops I've been doing. Supply chain's one of the biggest ones I use because you can just do so much with it, and you can do it really trustlessly, and you can use a lot of inputs to automate things in a way that everyone can see what's going on, and all of your different parties, because there's normally so many different parties in the supply chain, they can all plug into it. So it doesn't surprise me to see them trying to get ahead of this and harness it to increase their productivity and their supply chain.
Next piece, HTC, the smartphone giant, are launching a blockchain-powered smartphone, which you can apparently buy with cryptocurrency, according to headlines I've been reading. I haven't really looked into it too much.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting, blockchain-powered smartphones.
Yeah, so they're describing it as the world's first native blockchain phone, and it sounds like you're going to be able to run distributed applications on it. They've already said that they're going to support Ethereum, Bitcoin, and a few other different networks. I think the big thing for me is we're just going to have to wait and see what that looks like, because it could mean that you're able to run a node, like a light node on the phone. I'm not sure whether you're going to run a light node or the full node, or whether HTC are going to have their own nodes that you connect to and maybe have a bit more of an interface through that. But mate, I think, look, if you can get some hardware you can run distributed applications on, and you can pre-populate that phone with a lot of the dApps, then I think that's a big way to get people into using blockchain in a native way, because we talk a lot about user experience and the fact that it's quite difficult at the moment. But if they can build that into a phone, and they can build it into the phone in a meaningful way, where it's not just a marketing gimmick, I think it could be quite powerful. But it's all just conjecture at the moment. They don't have a working product yet, but it's definitely something to watch.
IBM are issuing a carbon credit cryptocurrency token on the Stellar blockchain. So they're going to be using the proceeds from that sell-off of the token to reforest a 250 square mile patch of rainforest on the Isle of Borneo.
Wow.
So yeah, carbon credits, that's going to be on the blockchain, or they're messing around with that. They're IBM and a company called something.
What's your view on carbon credits, mate? I've heard you talk about them before.
There are pros and cons. It's basically a way that you, as a company, if you're putting out a filthy amount of pollution, you can buy carbon credits, which represent a ton of carbon, off a wind turbine producer to sort of offset your pollution.
Right.
So I think that a carbon credit represents 1 ton taken out of the atmosphere or something like that. So and it's now a commodity that you can trade. So that's kind of random.
Right.
Not sure I'm massively into them, but they are a thing.
I guess it's as much for companies' PR as anything else then, to be able to say, we've offset this much of our pollution with carbon credits.
And to be fair, carbon credits could be put on the blockchain very, very effectively. And it could turn from being almost a bit dodgy at the moment to actually something that's actually verifiable.
Yeah.
And that verifiable nature could actually be really big.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. It's good to see that someone's looking into it. IBM seem to be at the forefront of a lot of this, mate. I'm increasingly impressed with what they're doing as far as blockchain development goes. Yeah.
Another week, another IBM headline.
Yeah. So the next bit of news, Oracle are launching blockchain software later in May or June 2018. And the software giant revealed that it will launch a platform as a service product based on blockchain technology at some point this month. What did you think of this?
I guess they're sort of going along and a bunch of other people are doing. Oracle are actually working with a couple of different countries. They're working on something in Nigeria at the moment. I think it's to do with ports and shipping.
Yeah.
And they're working with another country as well on something pretty big, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But they're already doing some stuff with it. So, yeah, it's more competition in the market, the better, I think.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Oracle is, I think it's the 4th largest tech company in the world. They're very, very big. I know them from their virtual machine software because that's what I've used them through. And that's why when I saw this, I thought, well, that makes sense because they're developing virtual machine technology. And like Ethereum, for example, runs a virtual machine. And you could look at most crypto networks as a type of virtual machine because you've essentially got a computer that's running on, like you got a distributed network of computers all running the same operating system, as it were. So it makes sense that a company that's made a lot of their money the last 20 years helping people run virtual machines would look at the blockchain and say, well, we've kind of got the skills to do a lot of that. We might as well start making products for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one you sent in the last week. It was quite funny. And Amazon have got an approved patent from the US Patent Office for tracking cryptocurrency transactions. And that came out of the dollar vigilante who really, they don't mess around with their words.
It's funny. I think they called Amazon a corporatist retail giant.
Not wrong.
Yeah, no, they're not wrong. But it's essentially, the patent states that a law enforcement agency may be a customer and may desire to receive global Bitcoin transactions correlated by country with ISP data to determine source IP addresses and shipping addresses that correlate to that Bitcoin address. The agency may not want to make additional available enhancements such as local bank data records. So essentially they're saying we're going to build some software to interpret the blockchain and we're going to tie that to some data you may already have, which will help you identify who holds which address. And it's essentially going to be like, from what it looks like Amazon are going to build like a phone book of sorts for Bitcoin addresses. And
They already do a huge amount of work for this.
Sweeping changes in our industrial military posture has been the technological revolution during recent decades.
you just have to kind of give in and help the man. So yeah, like it's not surprising really.
And Microsoft, they've released the Azure Blockchain Workbench. Now, apparently that's going to speed up my blockchain project builds if I was using it. What are your key points? Because I saw your tabs, and I think you had something open in that.
Yeah. It's funny. I just undeployed all my blockchain stuff on Azure yesterday. So when you sign up for an Azure account, you get $260 free usage. So I'd installed a blockchain workbench and deployed an Ethereum blockchain on Azure. And just started playing around with it. And look, it was really easy. I got to admit, it was really easy to deploy. It's not quite point and click yet. So it's not quite, you don't just log in and go, I want to start a blockchain and click a button and then your blockchain's all up and running. There's still some custom code you need to do. They'll step you through it on their site. Considering when you look at how much it takes to set up a blockchain in any other way, it's vastly better. I think when I looked at it, they deployed 27 different resources. So a few servers, a couple of nodes, all sorts of different things. And that took like 30 minutes.
Wow.
The workshop I did earlier this week, I ran people through a bit of what Azure does. And then there's a really good video, which we might even link in the show notes, done by Microsoft Mechanics. And they show just how easy it is to get some of this stuff up and running now with this new Workbench thing. So if you're a dev and you're used to working with Azure, which a lot of devs are, it just means that you can actually begin working with the blockchain in a familiar environment and a familiar way. So, mate, I was really impressed. I can't speak highly enough of what Microsoft are doing to help businesses deploy private and consortium blockchain. What I really like about what they're doing is they're providing the interface between blockchain and IoT devices baked in. So they've one of the big things that they've got is they've got like a automation section.
Yeah.
And so you can like build your smart contract and you can have several condition-based events within your smart contract. And in Azure, it's just like a flowchart.
Wow.
And so you can say, if this action executes, then send an email out to these people, or you phone this person, or send this notification to this compliance officer, or whatever. But it's all really intuitive.
Wow.
And it's just like if you've ever done email automation or use Zapier or anything like that, that's what it feels like.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like that, again, it's like that convergence between blockchain and stuff we're already used to. So I don't mean to rave on about Microsoft Azure, but like the more I use it and the more I see what they're doing, the more impressed I am with how they're kind of bringing everything together.
Think about how beautiful Apple blockchain will be there.
They'd hide everything from you, though.
So true.
Yeah.
20% thinner, 30% lighter.
50% less blockchain.
A Chinese state-owned institution is going to start the Moody's for crypto. So this is part of I think it's an offshoot of one of the technical branches of the Chinese government. But essentially what they're going to be doing is just I think they're calling it the Global Public Chain Assessment Index. And they'll be initially focusing on 28 major blockchain projects. And I don't know if it's every few months, they're going to be going through and coming up with ratings for a lot of the biggest crypto projects. Interesting sort of stuff.
Yeah, and they've already done their first one, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw it come out, and they rated Ethereum number 1, I think. And Neo was in there at number 3 or number 4.
Right.
Bitcoin was around 11 or 12, I think.
That's
right, kind of in the middle of the pack. But they've got all sorts of different metrics that they're ranking these things by. I was quite surprised that they rated Ethereum above Neo. I thought for sure that Neo was a shoo-in for the number 1 because they were such a big thing in China. But yeah, Ethereum was in there, and there are a few others, but China's definitely paying attention to this. I think we've talked about it before. Like they're building this Silk Road throughout Europe, and the amount of logistical infrastructure that's going into that, it makes sense for them to be really pivoting towards at least building blockchain into a lot of that stuff. So it's quite likely anyone along that Silk Road or whatever are going to have to really be paying attention to what's coming out of the Chinese government. So this metric will probably be a good way to feel out where the Chinese government may be shifting as well, and where they may be looking to.
And then there's a port in China actually called, I think it's Caofeidian. They're going fully autonomous with cranes and trucks by the end of 2018. Currently, I think they move around 300,000 20-foot containers a year.
Wow.
Which means they're not actually one of the biggest ports in the world. Like I think Rotterdam does millions of these things a year, but there's still it's still a big port by any standard. So now they're going to actually have 20 autonomous trucks doing most of the heavy driving, and a bunch of cranes do all the lifting.
Yeah,
really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it seems like it's a US Chinese startup called Too Simple, and
how's that spelled?
TUSIMPLE.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're hoping to have, they've got 20 self-driving models of trucks.
Wow. And
they're hoping to essentially have one kind of model for everything this port needs, and have the whole port go completely autonomous. That's their goal. They really want autonomous trucks to become a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah, so I guess if it works well for this will be their first real test. And if it works well for this, they're going to be able to go to other ports and say, well, we've done it in Caofeidian or whatever the name is. Let's do it somewhere else. And yeah, it's just another sign of where things are going. Everything's about automation now.
Are flying cars becoming a horrifying reality?
I'm really hopeful for flying cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful for flying cars. I like it. Because I sit in traffic a fair bit. And
of course.
At the moment I found out that flying cars were actually on the horizon, I sit there now in traffic and I just think, it makes so much more sense to be able to go above the ground, because on a road, like you're real limited. You can only go one way on one surface. But the moment you go up into the air, you're just limited by how high you're allowed to go and how well your traffic is controlled. I mean, if we're going to have flying cars, they can't be piloted by humans. It's just, unless maybe right at the beginning, but I think the moment it becomes any kind of busy up there, it's going to have to be automated.
Which is terrifying and great at the same time.
So what's this company doing?
They're in a Ohio-based passenger drone startup called Workhorse Group Incorporated. They unveiled their Surefly vertical takeoff and landing drone for human passengers at the Paris Air Show last summer. And since then, they've actually sent it into the air with a pilot inside for the first time.
Wow.
So there are a bunch of different companies that are doing this. I mean, you've probably seen Uber on this.
Yeah. They've got some crazy conceptual stuff too. Like if you go on the Uber site and look at some of their videos,
it does look, it looks insane. And there are a few different companies out there looking at this stuff. I think it is apparently more than a dozen who've already passed the conceptualization and design phase.
Yeah.
Now, this company, Workhorse Group, are the first to get full FCC approval. Wait, FCC? Which is the one that FAA approval.
FAA.
Good to see them testing with actual people inside. I've got some concern. My main problem is, if we're moving to this, I hope it's not based on regular fuel.
Yeah.
But obviously, it seems to be the only solution to any problem we have is use petrol or
But then
diesel.
again, most drones you see now aren't running on fuel. They're running on electricity. And most of the autonomous car models that I'm seeing anyway, looking at the Uber stuff, it seems like just a bigger drone. That seems like what they're running on.
Like any gushing Tesla enthusiast, which I am, I actually can't continue without a quote from my dear leader. Here's what he had to say.
Let's just say that if something's flying over your head, if there are a whole bunch of flying cars going all over the place, that is not an anxiety-reducing situation. You don't think to yourself, well, I feel better about today. You're thinking did they service their hubcap? Or is it going to come off and guillotine me as they're flying past?
He's right, though, I guess. To be honest, if I think nearly anything has to be safer than driving on some of these roads at the moment, because
He's fair.
I feel like here in the city anyway, you take your life into your own hands every time you go out to drive, because there's just so many bad drivers.
There are some insane people on the road, man. I drive on the speed limit and I'm the slowest one on the road.
Yeah.
Either that or my speedo's wrong, which could be correct. But
and there's these things called marks, like line marks on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And I pay attention to them. But
yeah.
it seems like a lot of people just don't.
You're in the minority.
Yeah, they'll just drift over in your lane all the time and drift back. And yeah. Anyway, I'm quietly optimistic for driverless flying vehicles.
Oh, mate, it would be fantastic. China, they're aiming to follow Elon's SpaceX by recovering the first stage of one of their rockets, which is still under development. So they're looking to make a maiden flight around 2021, which would mean it's not just SpaceX who are going after reusable rockets, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a justification. Well, it's validation for what Musk has been doing, with his design principles. It's that someone else is picking it up and saying, okay, actually, we should be capturing these rockets again, and we should be reusing them, because it's silly to waste all that money and not reuse them. So there you go. China are actually aiming to do some space exploration in the near future and get a lot of vehicles up into space, which is really exciting. Another bit of news. On Monday at Consensus, RSK, which is a startup that's working on Bitcoin, have announced that they're going to be implementing a sidechain which can handle smart contracts. And initially I saw this and I thought, wow, smart contracts on Bitcoin, that doesn't make much sense. But when you look into the documents, it actually seems like it's really Bitcoin in name only. Like they've got a sidechain, but it's basically all on their own infrastructure and it's almost attached in nearly every way. My impression is that it's not really Bitcoin smart contracts. It's just a company that's building their own chain, which has some similarities to Bitcoin, and they're turning smart contracts on that chain. So that's my view. Obviously, it's all news right now, so we'll see how it actually gets implemented. But I'm not real excited about it yet. So this week for our tool of the episode, we're going to talk about Reddit. And we just wanted to highlight it because it is actually a really useful tool to stay across what's going on in crypto.
We actually decided this would be the tool because the other day we were at lunch with a friend and he'd heard about Reddit 1,000 times. He'd never been on it.
Yep.
So, yeah, basically Reddit is a website where you can submit links to things that you find on the internet that are cool, and other people on Reddit will vote it up or down. Now, Reddit consists of a bunch of subreddits. For every possible interest on the planet, there is a subreddit.
Literally every possible interest.
It's so weird. There are some really interesting ones. So for, Matt's ice hockey team, there is a subreddit. For a cryptocurrency that you enjoy, every single cryptocurrency has its own subreddit.
The crazy thing about Reddit is every subreddit has a few people who literally scour the internet for articles and pieces of news and all sorts of interesting things to post up in that subreddit. And the only real reward they get from that is upvotes, which is like the currency of Reddit. So Reddit kind of has its own cryptocurrency, and that's in a way like it's not a cryptocurrency, but it's like a token. It's tokenized value, and that's upvotes. And people really like to get these upvotes. So you'll generally find that almost every Reddit will have a few active people that will feed you all the news about that one thing. You can just subscribe to that subreddit and you can check it every day. And if you go to what's called your front page, which is kind of like it pulls together posts from all the different Reddits you subscribe to, it will show you just like a feed. You can just keep scrolling through, scrolling through of news from all those subreddits.
With each link that is posted to Reddit, there's a whole lot of discussion as well. So there's a lot of if you want a good laugh on the internet, go on Reddit. There's a great one called Ask Reddit where you can ask questions to Reddit, and the community of Reddit will come and give you the most offensive / hilarious / whatever answers. Lots to watch out for. So it's not a pretty website. It's one of the ugliest websites on the internet.
There are ways to make it better though.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you use it normally?
So I use the app on my phone. So just to browse through the things I've already subscribed to. I've joined a bunch of subreddits, some for videos, some for 360 videos, some for fonts and typography, some for a bunch of different things. And I basically just find cool stuff on there. I don't really post to Reddit, but I just get so much ideas from other people on the internet. So that's what I use it for.
And what app do you use on your phone?
I use the Slide app, which is a really nice app.
I use Slide as well.
Nice.
I really like it too. Yeah. So if you're on Android, I'm not sure if they've got an Apple app, but if you're on Android, Slide we can both recommend that. And the good thing about it too is you can have you can pull your most favorite subreddits to the kind of like the front where you'll see it, and then you can swipe to the left and it'll go to the next subreddit.
Wow.
The next subreddit. So you can kind of have like a hierarchy of all the different Reddits you check, and so your most visited ones will show up at the start when you first open the app, and then as you swipe to your right, you'll get further and further along in all the different subreddits, which is cool. So.
I literally don't use it how it's intended then. Anyway.
So if you were into forums back in the day, I feel like Reddit's kind of become the new forum for a lot of things. Like looking back on it, I can see that my forum use went way down the moment I discovered Reddit, because Reddit it makes so much more sense, like with the upvoting mechanism and the way that comments work, and you can have them nested and everything's really fresh, but it's all still there if you want to go back and search it. It's kind of like same kind of theory behind what forums used to be, but it just works a lot better. So go check it out. We find it's a really good way to manage our news and keep up with things to do with blockchain.
Smart contracts. What's going on with smart contracts? Where are they at? What can our dear listeners hear from you?
Yeah, so like we said earlier on, I've been generating content for a couple of workshops that I'm running. I think it was just a good time to go back and revisit smart contracts. We covered them, I think, in episode 2 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there, and we haven't really circled back and done a good session on smart contracts since then. So the big thing that I've noticed is that businesses are really starting to look at smart contracts. So blockchain and smart contracts, that businesses are really starting to take notice, and they're starting to wonder how they can begin implementing it into their workflow. And I think we, as like the cryptocurrency community, in inverted commas, we focus a lot on the monetary side of things and like on freeing the monetary system and all that kind of stuff. But like more and more businesses and other sectors are looking to incorporate distributed ledger technology, that the financial side of it is gradually diminishing. I think, for example, if you're a developer, it's a really good time to start beginning looking at the technology, because there's only going to be more and more jobs in this space as time goes on. So my strategy for learning smart contracts, for example, has been learn the basics of smart contracts on Ethereum. There's several good Code Academy or Udemy courses out there. Begin paying attention to the differences between each of the platforms, because I think what we're seeing is that Ethereum has been just going far too slow for the last year or two, and a lot of competitors are popping up as smart contract platforms. And you've got EOS, you've got Cardano, you've got Tendermint, which is an amazing project, which is really worth looking at. They've got a product called Cosmos, which is also really worth looking at. Hashgraph is another one, and NEM as well, which we've covered before. And I think for me, I found that the best way to keep across things is to get active in developer channels. The EOX Telegram has a lot of great resources, and also get familiar with the offerings from like big players at the moment. It's like Microsoft Azure, for example, which we've talked about. But look, I think the platforms in general are beginning to mature, but the public implementations for a lot of it just aren't there yet. So businesses are looking a lot more at private blockchains now.
Right.
That's and blockchains that can perform very specific business tasks for them. That's a trend that I've really seen.
So what are your key takeaways from what you've been learning so far? I mean, you've been using it. I've seen you've been coding with them. You've been looking at the possibilities in some platforms and trying to compare them head to head. What are the key takeaways that you'd have for us?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to say is smart contracts themselves are very simple. What I've learned is that generally you want to keep your smart contracts as simple as possible, and it's everything else that's around the smart contracts that gets really complicated. So building an application, like the reason that our applications are so not user-friendly at the moment is just because people are still learning how to incorporate them and how to actually make them work. And so that's one of the takeaways I've seen. Bringing information in from outside is difficult also. I think a lot of what smart contracts are really going to rely on is having a trusted way to bring information in from outside that you can act upon. Because if you've got like a trustless ledger, you need to be able to inherently trust all the information that's coming in on that ledger. And one of the big problems is, well, how do you trust the information? You know, like if there's so much money and business interests tied up in it, you need to be sure that whatever you're getting is actually good. So there's this concept of oracles, which which a few people have come up with, and you've got two options. You can either have like a private oracle, which is someone that is a company that feeds information to the blockchain, and you call on them, kind of like how you call an API, and you say, "I'll trust you because you're Microsoft," or "I'll trust you because you're IBM," or something similar. But but that's not great for decentralization. So there's a few different platforms out there now that are looking at doing like a public approach where they incentivize people to run like nodes and provide good information. They'll get like 7 or 8 nodes to all retrieve the same information every time. And if anyone tries to game the system, they'll be kicked off. Because everyone else will know that information is inaccurate. So that's another big issue I think that doesn't get talked about enough, is how do we plug this in with the rest of the world. So Witnet is a project that's really worth looking at for that. I liked what I saw from them. I think one of the other things to say is decentralization is very hard too. You know, businesses are asking, how can we make money out of this? And I think there's this real weird like kind of play with blockchain where we want decentralization, and a lot of businesses are seeing the value in this decentralization, but they're also saying, like, how are we going to make money out of this? You know, like we want to take this technology on, but we've got to invest money into this technology, and we want to be able to like get ahead of our competitors to be able to make money out of this. So So what I've been noticing is that they tend to want to re-centralize a lot. They tend to want to bring it back in-house and say, well, how can we use this technology without sending it out to everyone and being open source? And, you look at exchanges, for example, they're huge money pots. We kind of got this decentralized technology, but we're centralizing it in a whole bunch of exchanges. Like you look at something like Binance or Bittrex or something, they hold huge amounts of crypto on their platform instead of letting users hold it. And there's another one I looked at called Iryo, which is like a medical program.
How's that spelled?
IRYO.
Right.
And I think I talked to you a bit about this a couple of weeks ago, about the fact that having like a blockchain where people could have their medical records on it would have a lot of benefit to it. And Iryo are looking at doing something like that. But from what it seems like to me when reading their docs is that they are wanting to centralize it on their service as much as possible. Which is really no different to... the Australian government here is working on something called like My Health or something at the moment. And it's really no different to what they're doing if you look at it that way, except it's on a blockchain. I think there's I'm just noticing a real disconnect at the moment between what businesses want, and that I think a lot of education has to be done about the benefits of decentralizing. Yeah, I think that's something that people haven't really caught on to yet, is that there are benefits to decentralizing. There are benefits to not bringing all that in-house. One of the things that I've been telling a lot of people is that if people have decentralized identities on the blockchain and they have blockchain personality, essentially, you don't have to handle that data as a business. So if someone has, their own blockchain account, an identity on the blockchain, all you have to do is interact with that. You don't actually have to store any of that on your own servers because it's all there on the blockchain and you can just pull from it, which means you're not actually taking any of that data on. And we've seen like there's this new legislation in Europe called the GDPR, which everyone's been freaking out about. And they place a lot more burdens on people hosting data. And it makes a lot of sense if you're a business, instead of hosting that data yourself, to just go and get it from something like the blockchain and get it in a way that it means that you don't have to take it on, and build programs for that as well. And I think that's not getting held up enough as like a really good benefit of the blockchain, in that you can use it as like a risk mitigation, essentially. So that's a lot of what I've been telling businesses with that as well. But yeah, essentially coming back to smart contracts, I think the biggest thing I'm noticing is that there are a lot of areas ripe for smart contract implementation. As this technology matures, we're going to see more and more of it. And like a lot of the news articles we talked about today were either financial or supply chain. And I think that's two areas that are really just completely ripe for integrating blockchain. As the ecosystem matures, we're going to see people begin to remove middlemen from other areas as well. So whether it be real estate agents or record companies or exchanges, these big centralized exchanges, or retailers will be able to go more directly to the source. There's a lot to be said for this trust layer of the internet that we're creating. And the more we can build that out, the more we can build systems that just automate a lot of the functionality that middlemen have performed.
What were the two industries that you were saying were going to be most affected by it?
Supply chain and financial.
Right.
Yeah. I think they're just the two ripest at the moment, because I think it's the easiest to integrate for both of them. Like supply chain, there's so many huge benefits for a blockchain model compared to the model they're currently using. Yep. And the big thing I focus on with that I see with all this is that you're essentially building a layer where everyone can interact on an equal playing field, and where information is put down in such a way that you just essentially have to build your application to plug into that information, as opposed to a current model where it's more like
data locked away.
That's right.
Siloed.
And you plug into it through APIs, and you have to use like Zapier or something to plug into it and lift and kind of chain it all together. Whereas blockchain development is just so different. It kind of works in reverse. You essentially structure your program and your application and the information to all exist on a medium that everyone else uses it on as well, and in a form that everyone else can use it. And then it's like distilling that information where all the work is. So that's why smart contracts are so simple, because you're dealing with a very basic medium where information is exchanged, and then it's more about how you present that information and how you interact with that information. Does that make sense?
I nodded for the last 20 seconds. I definitely was.
But we're going to see more. Like a supply chain, like we've got IBM and Maersk, which are doing things, got Walmart. I'm sure Amazon's looking into it. But as we go, I think we're going to see more, like the law, like, because that's my background. I think there's going to be a lot of blockchain integration within the law.
That's a very good, hold on. That was a very good point you make about Amazon though.
Yeah.
Because they're building a bunch of software stuff for it.
Yeah.
But not like that is just so obvious.
Yeah.
Yikes. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure they're working on
I
stuff.
totally missed that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're working on stuff behind the scenes. So, like, if you're a business and you're involved in any of those supply chain businesses, I think learning more about the blockchain and how you can integrate it into your workflow is going to be more and more important as the big players start to use it. Cool. So that's basically the smart contract update. Is there anything you wanted to add, Joe?
Mate, no, I don't have anything to add to that really. I mean, there's just so much potential with them. That's the big one. Yeah, you can see that they're the future, but you can't see it running at two transactions a minute, sort of. Yeah,
well, I think that's why scaling's so important. That's why we're seeing EOS and Cardano and Tendermint. We'll have to do a section on Tendermint sometime in the near future,
right?
Because what they are building is unreal. And I'm really excited. The more I look into that, the more I'm really excited about that as well, because they're building a technology where essentially you can put any blockchain on their technology and have inter-blockchain communication between those different chains. And you can also have what they call like a peg zone, which allows you to monitor what's going on one blockchain and code smart contracts on another blockchain to basically act on what's happening on that other chain.
That's really interesting. Which
is really interesting, yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what they're doing, so I don't feel like I talk about it a bit, but I don't feel like I'm really ready to be like, this is what they're doing, because there's just so much technical aspects to the product they're building. But yeah, really, really interesting what those guys are doing as well. So right. Yeah, there's a lot of work being done on scaling, and I think until we have something that can work at scale, we're just going to see a lot of people keep building these private blockchains, because it just makes more commercial sense for them than to do anything on the public one. Cool. So mate, you've been really looking at a lot of this Google I/O stuff.
Yeah. So every year Google have this conference event thing where they bring in a bunch of reporters, tech nerds, developers, and just tell them what's going on with their products, all their updates. So yeah, Google I/O this year is a bunch of really cool coding stuff, which we're just not going to cover because we're not trying to bore you to death here. So there are just a few cool things that I saw from there, general tech things, which I just figured would be worth sharing. The first one is Google News is being revamped. So it's built on AI and tailored to you. Let's play a little clip from their introduction video.
We're completely rebuilding Google News. It uses artificial intelligence to analyze all the content published to the web at any moment and organize all those articles, videos, and more into storylines. It spots the ones you might be interested in and puts them into your briefing. Your briefing helps you get up to speed on 5 top storylines happening now. It's organized for you with local, national, and global stories on the topics you care about. If you want to go deeper, just tap to get full coverage. You get a complete view of a storyline, reported by sources with a range of perspectives, articles, videos, the timeline, and opinion and analysis. The new Google News is...
basically, Google are going to use this to manipulate your opinion towards their corporate goals, so that's pretty exciting. Second update from Google I/O was Google Assistant. I think I sent this clip to a bunch of people. If you were in our Telegram, you would have seen the clip we posted in of this. Google Assistant making a phone call for you. So an actual voice assistant making a phone call on your behalf.
Yeah, so we'll play the clip now. It's really worth a quick listen. And just remember that this is a computer, not a
human that's booking
being.
in this haircut. Yeah.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have at 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Mate, that's really freaky.
Absolutely monstrous.
It's like obviously it's a little bit contrived because it was their demo, but if it's even half of that, like what they just presented there.
Well, almost immediately after they actually played another phone call of when they got the assistant to try and book a table at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Did not go well. The assistant was very polite, but definitely there was a language barrier there.
Right.
So yeah, really, really fascinating stuff. Almost scary.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere somebody said, who was it?
It was the CEO of freelancer.com.
Starts with an M. Barry.
Matt Barry.
Matt Barry, the CEO of freelance.com, he tweeted saying, "This is Google's Trojan horse for businesses." You know, he just took this one step forward and said, "Okay, well, what if these guys, if Google Assistant is answering your business's phone calls and responding for you?"
Yep.
Google knows everything about your business, the whole way it works, and he goes, "That's it's an information goldmine."
Yeah.
I don't think he said that, but it's like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the trade-off with all these things, isn't it? You give away some of your freedom and your privacy for the convenience, and that's the big issue. What was the next one?
So this one's really important for visually impaired people around the world. So apparently there are more than 200 million people in the world who are blind or visually impaired. Now Google have introduced this idea of this app called Lookout. Now it's basically you would wear your Google Pixel phone around your neck on a lanyard with a camera facing forward. So it will actually start recognizing objects like traffic lights or zebra crossings or dog or lift button or those sorts of things. And that's going to absolutely change the lives of millions of people in this world, because just like, neither of us know what it's like to go through life as a blind or visually impaired person. But the fact that Google are actually putting effort into this thing is insanely useful, because that could be so good for so many people.
There's nothing else to say about it, but it's incredible.
So that's a little one. There was another random one called Talk to Books. So Google's AI blog, they've basically said you can almost ask any question, and Google sort of scour all the books in the Google Books repository and try and give answers to your question based on what was in those books. So there were some sample questions like, what can a woman over 50 do to stay fit? And then it goes through all of these books and research papers and all that and springs up answers from the book. So it's kind of interesting. Wow. So it's called Talk to Books. And it's a really interesting experiment. And the last, the 2 points that go hand in hand, progressive web apps and service workers. So progressive web apps are basically a website that you could build for your company or project or podcast or whatever it was. And it works on desktop, mobile, whatever. However, on mobile phones, you can actually pin it to your home screen, and it's basically a native app on your phone. But at the same time, it's loading from a website. But it's going to be, they're super fast. They're reliable in bad network conditions, because once you've pinned it to your home screen and you've opened it, it actually stores some of the files from your website or your on the device. So the next time you load the website, it's super fast. So it only updates the bits that need updating. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, mate, you showed me an example of it earlier on with the NAB. What was it called? NabTrade?
NabTrade.
NabTrade.
It's basically a stock trading platform. And they've done the whole thing via progressive web apps. So this space built into that for people to make really amazing experiences for mobiles, but without having to build mobile apps from scratch in mobile app languages and stuff. But it just feels native, and it's speed is probably the main benefit of that. And I personally think it's a great idea to be moving sort of towards web-based experiences for that, and the whole caching it on a phone, really interesting. Then built into that is an idea of service workers. So according to Google, a service worker is a script that your browser runs in the background, separate from a web page, opening the door to features that don't need a web page or any user interaction. Today, they already include features like push notifications and background sync, which you'll be familiar with. In the future, service workers might support other things like periodic sync or geofencing. So, periodically updating, for example, the stock trading app on my phone with the latest portfolio information.
Yep.
If there's good network conditions or if it's on Wi-Fi, then just update every 2 hours so that next time I check, it doesn't need to make a call.
So if I'm someone who's got a website, then I'd really want an app, but I can't afford to pay for like an app developer because it'll cost me like tens of thousands of dollars. I could instead use this new innovation from Google to essentially, with a bit of extra effort, turn my web page into something that looks kind of like an app.
Yeah. So if you can make a lightweight experience. I say a lightweight experience, just a rapid experience. But then it means that you're only actually updating your website to update all those other places. You don't need to go via an app store for people to install stuff. It's just expanding the web to give it more functionality, which is exactly what we want, and we're going to keep seeing it happen. And the final thing that Google have been stressing again, so those progressive web apps and service workers, Google have been working on them for a while. Same with accelerated mobile pages, which is basically just web pages on a diet. Big priorities for Google. They just want it going as web pages to load as quickly as they can. If you're if you're into building websites or search engine optimization, look up accelerated mobile pages and see if you can get that integrated with your website. You'll probably see a traffic gain from search engines just by having that.
Sweet. That was really interesting. All right, so on our privacy and security section this week, we're going to look at something called CoinStorageGuru, and it's a project from made by someone called Brendan Lee here in Australia, and it's what it is it's essentially a hardware wallet, but it's splitting your hardware wallet up into 3 different sections. So every cryptocurrency address, so if you get like a private address, a private key, public key, that's all. You can essentially build a lot of those, especially through Ethereum, from what's called a 12-word mnemonic. So if you set up like your MetaMask account, for example, in your browser, it's like MetaMask is like a way to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. You'll have to choose a 12-word mnemonic seed, they call it. And from this seed, so you can choose essentially whatever 12 words you want, and they'll generate you an Ethereum address from those 12 words. And if you ever lose your public key or your private key, all you need is your 12-word seed, and you can get back into your account. That's it. You don't need any other password or anything like that. You just need to know those 12 words. And so what Safewords, which is the product from CoinStorageGuru, does is it allows you to split your mnemonic seed up into 3 different parts and then store them in 3 different locations. So, for example, Joe, like if I wanted to split my Ethereum account up into 3 different parts, I could leave one with me here in the house. I'd keep 4 words. I could leave one with you, and I could take one out to where my parents live and bury it in a field somewhere and leave it with them as well. And the beauty of what this product does is, from my understanding, it allows you to, as long as you've got 2 of them, you can get back into your account. And there's a whole kit they give you.
So it basically, really worth checking out the website, Coinstorage.Guru, and it's a great idea, and yeah, good on him for coming up with this. It's basically, it gives all 3 cards 2/3 of your password. So you'll be able to, get your full password in no time.
Yep. Yeah. So it's only $15 that we can see on the site. So $15 US, and it's just a great way, I think, to give yourself a bit of extra redundancy. And give yourself a bit more safety as well. So we'll put the link in the show notes. Definitely worth checking out. And that is our privacy and security tip for this episode.
Another chat with Dan the ICO Man. Last time we spoke to him, he'd actually come up with a new product. It was called ICO.
I think it was called the Ultimate ICO Success Formula.
Ah, yes,
yeah.
of course.
So it wasn't just a successful; it was an ultimate ICO
yeah.
Success Formula. Yeah, so he's gotten in touch with us again.
Lovely.
Sounds like this is going really well for him. Sounds like he's doing pretty well with his ICO Success Formula.
So some of our listeners must have been paying.
I really hope not. I really hope they didn't get in touch with Dan at all. But we're agorist. We believe that you should take responsibility for your own actions, and if you've partaken of Dan's offering, then that's your fault and not our fault.
Yeah.
So we take no responsibility for that. But we are more than willing to have Dan on for the value that he provides to our podcast. Maybe in a different way to the way that he thinks he provides the value. But look, he's called us and he said that he's in Consensus in New York, and so we're going to give him a call and just see what's going on.
Hey Dan, how you doing? There's a lot of noise from through the phone. Where are you at?
Well, Joe, I'm reporting live here from the floor of Consensus, on the trail for my new Ultimate ICO Success Formula. You remember I talked about it last episode, Joe. Well, I've got to say, it's been going gangbusters, Joe. Everyone wants a piece of Dan the ICO Man, Joe. I haven't been this popular since the last half of last year, Joe. So anyway, I'm here, Joe. I tell you what, I'm absolutely swamped with interest. People keep saying that this is going to slow down, Joe, but I can't see any evidence of it. I look around here on the floor of Consensus, Joe, and no one is busier than my booth here at Consensus. You know why, Joe? Because everyone wants to get in on the ICO market. Now, Joe, it's taking different forms. I mean, we've got airdrops, we've got side chains, we've got private chains, Joe, but everyone wants a piece of this sweet marketing pie called the Ultimate ICO Success Formula.
Well, Dan, you've literally just got back from holiday. You've released the product. You're non-stop. You keep going until yikes. You are just such a busy guy. So, what's the reception like?
Joe, it has been absolutely phenomenal. I gave a keynote yesterday here at Consensus, and it was packed, Joe. It was absolutely packed. The biggest question on everyone's lips is, look, they say, people are searching out these frauds a lot more now. We can't just launch with a web page. What makes us think that your formula will work, Joe? I mean, BitConnect's been shut down. USI Tech, well, I mean, their name's basically been run through the mud. So we need to think about a new model, and this is what I'm telling people. You can't just put any old web page up, Joe. It takes a lot more than that. These ICOs are things where you need to give more value to customers. You can't just give them the white paper, Joe. You got to give them the yellow paper. You can't just give them any old website, Joe. You've got to have advisors. You got to have some thought put into this. And most of all, Joe, you need to convince them that giving you their money is going to be the best thing that they've ever done, Joe. Because that's what people want. They want to ride to the top. And you've got to convince them that you're going to take them there, Joe.
Wow, Dan, this sounds absolutely fantastic. So, for any of our listeners who can't make it to Consensus this year, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is considering an ICO, and apart from buying a product, obviously?
Well, Joe, my biggest piece of advice would be to follow your dreams, Joe. You have to dream big with this stuff. It's no longer good enough to say you are going to be the best just for one thing, Joe. People want platforms. People want to know that you're in it for the long haul, that you can pull more and more people into this platform. What I want to see them doing, Joe, is I want to see them dreaming big. I want to see them saying, this blockchain thing, I can make all my money I can on this thing. I'm going to retire at 35. And Dan the ICO Man, Joe, he's going to take it.
Dan, you are the round peg in the square hole that Steve Jobs talked about.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Look, I got to go. I got a bunch of people here waiting in the stall, Joe. I'm literally getting flooded. I can't hire enough staff to help me sell this thing, so I'm going to go have to get back on my soapbox, selling a bit more, Joe. Look, your listeners can go to that same page again, and I'll see you later, Joe.
So last time we left Jordan Cronje, he was chilling in Lieberland. He'd finally kind of given up his adventurous ways and he decided to settle down for a while in the libertarian paradise of Lieberland. He's gotten in touch with us and he's let us know that he's also at Consensus.
I thought he was going back to South Africa.
Yeah, no, I thought he was going back to South Africa too, but he's gotten in touch with us and he said, no, I'm on my way to South Africa, but he's going via Consensus. So we thought we might give him a call and see what's been going on for him at Consensus as well. Jordan, are you there?
Oh, Brew, yes, I'm here. How you doing, huh?
Oh, I'm good, Jordan. It's been a while. We haven't talked to you for a while. What have you been doing?
Mate, it's been a while, huh? Do you know what? I was in Lieberland. I got my diplomatic immunity. Solves all my problems. Well, now I'm actually New York City here for Consensus Conference. I actually saw Dan the ICO Man here. You would not believe it, huh? Standing next to the rented Lamborghinis at the front is Dan the ICO Man. You would not believe it, huh?
Wow, you saw Dan. So what did his stall look like, Jordan?
Oh, look, to be honest with you, it's not my place to judge, but you know, there were lights, there were pretty women, there was a lot going on there, but it was definitely the future from what I could understand from what he said, huh?
Wow, okay, so you know we have Dan the ICO Man on our show as well, don't you?
Oh, Blue, I'm a big listener, right?
Good, Jordan. So, Jordan, last time we talked to you, you told us that you were going to South Africa. So, why did you decide to make the detour to Consensus?
Oh, it's a very good question. Well, to be honest, I didn't feel like just going home to South Africa. It would just be like I'd be sitting there with my dogs, with the fridge and the TV on. It'd be silly, you know. I figured I've got to make something of my life, huh? So I went straight to New York City. Big Apple, big shining lights, lots of things going on there. I figured why not find who Jordan Cronje is at the center of a crypto conference, huh?
Okay, so have you been talking with some of the crypto celebrities there?
Oh, Blue, I've been doing some interviews for my listeners. You know my listeners, my beloved listeners. They haven't received too many updates from me recently, but yes, I've been speaking to all kinds of people. The famous people from crypto. The Joseph Lubins, the Vitaliks. I've spoken to all of them. Yes. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things that they're doing that they're not telling the public about. It's very interesting stuff, huh?
Right. Okay. So Jordan, have people recognized? I mean, because you're kind of a crypto celebrity as well. I mean, have they recognized the creator of Zimbabwe coin and Venezuela coin and the real inspiration behind Saudi Arabia's cryptocurrency as well? Are people recognizing you for that, or?
Look, sometimes you just got sometimes the true genius is not actually noticed. It goes under the radar. I mean, it takes years for genius. I mean, you remember Andreas Antonopoulos, his first talks on Bitcoin back in 2009. He had empty crowds, huh?
Yeah, that's true.
Same with Jordan Cronje. I'll tell you, in 10 years, you will see the popularity that Jordan has, huh?
Right. So, Jordan, I was actually perusing the Consensus timetable, and I saw that you had a slot there. It was a 20-minute slot, talking to the crowd about something. What were you talking to them about?
So I was actually giving a fascinating presentation about how anybody can build on the success that Jordan Cronje has had building Zimbabwe coin and Venezuela coin. I told them how they could go and build their own crypto token to change the world.
Wow. So what kind of people were attending the talk?
Oh, there were a lot of people heading straight from Dan's booth, straight over here. And from here over to Dan's booth, I think we switched. I think we shared an audience there, huh?
Wow. Okay, Jordan. So it sounds like you've really been networking hard, and there's going to be some big opportunities coming up. If you've got one takeaway from Consensus, what would that be?
New York hotels are expensive.
As always, Jordan, it's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, likewise, mate. I'll catch you soon, huh?
See you, mate. Okay, so in this week's community service announcements, we've really only got one big one, and that's to register your EOS tokens.
Yeah, if you've bought EOS and you haven't registered them, you're just going to end up crying in 2 weeks if you haven't followed that advice. So please do. It's just silly, but yeah, if you've bought any EOS, make sure you register it.
Seriously, register your tokens.
Seriously.
Come on.
Seriously.
You've got one job.
I mean, what did you think you were doing? Being productive and contributing to society and nonsense.
If you're in Brisbane here in Australia, we'll also be at the Blockgrain Event on the 29th, I think it is. It's a Tuesday anyway. Blockgrain, which are an Australian blockchain for farming startup. They're going to be here in town, and they're running an event on the Tuesday. We'll also be having an interview with them sometime around that time as well, and we'll put that out in the next episode. So, yeah, jump on the Telegram. We'll have all the details there anyway. And if you're in Brisbane, we hope to see you there.
Sorry, mate. What was that? When is it? 29th.
I think it's the 29th.
You literally said that all off the top of your head.
I did. I actually have it written down. If you know someone who might enjoy this, please feel free to share it with them.
You can find us at FOMO.show.
You can jump on our Telegram at FOMO.show/Telegram. We've moved to Telegram from Slack.
So feel free to join us there. You can follow us on Twitter at @the_FOMO_show.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Show.
And YouTube at FOMO.show/YouTube.
That's up for...
One more time.
That's it for us here at The FOMO Show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like our show, please do feel free to subscribe in your podcast app of choice or via our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And as always, remember,
no FOMO. Fart and no poo. I'm going to cut that part out, don't worry.
Oh, fart and no poo.
So any idiot can see Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin are Bitcoin. Both of them are Bitcoin. There is no difference between them.
And look, I got their pamphlets.
We've been on CoinMarketCap. They're different, boys. Same thing. That's what we call arbitrage. You buy Bitcoin, you sell it for Bitcoin Cash. You buy Bitcoin Cash.
Oh, okay, enough of that. Anyway. Set a calendar event for Tuesday the 29th at 9 p.m. 6 p.m.
What's the title?
Damn it, it's 9 p.m. The title is now, damn it, it's 9 p.m.
What? This is why we can't have nice things.
It's so true. Now it's trying to stick it in my... Google has stopped. Open the app again. I have crashed the artificial intelligence.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
Is that what they whisper when a new blockchain comes out? Take it, Gandalf. Don't tempt me, Frodo.